Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the Seiko SRP311, otherwise known as the Monster Halloween. So the Seiko Monster released in the year 2000. It was kind of based on the SKX. It was the same dimension diver with just a different kind of style to it, and it used the exact same 7S26 movement as well. Over the years, the Monster has evolved. Whereas the SKX turned into the Seiko 5 Sport, the Monster has kept on as a hardcore diver, which is still ISO certified, and it still has the screw-in crown and the robust 4R36 movement as well as a screw-down case back. So the first generation of the Monster was kind of legendary because of the orange dial, and it stood out from the rest of Seiko's divers in their lineup, and it got the nickname the Orange Monster. That was a pretty awesome diver, and it was something that collectors looked at that separated them from everyone else who just would go out and buy an SKX. The second generation is when they adopted the shark tooth fangs, as they call them. The biggest upgrade to the second generation Monster is that 4R36 movement. Whereas the SKX never truly evolved into a greater diver, it kind of went down a tier into the Seiko 5 Sport as more of a casual dive style watch. The Monster had upgrades as it was time to move out instead of downgrading it. So the second generation has the 4R36 movement, which added hacking and hand winding, but unlike the Seiko 5 Sport, it kept its screw-in crown as well as a screw-down caseback. So it was still a full-fledged diver at its core. Alright, let's take a look. So it looks like it's a very similar box to the SKX. Do keep in mind that this is the second generation Monster. This released around 2012. So you get this blue box, kind of like a felt material. And there it is. Warranty and instructions in there. Comes on this nice leather Seiko pillow. Faux leather probably, but still pretty nice. And there is the watch, guys. And the first thing you see when you look at this is just such a crazy design, right? I mean, you get the fangs, the shark tooth, just the color scheme. It's in this black PVD coated steel right here. You can see how the Monster's design is kind of like hardcore diver, but still wants to kind of differentiate itself. It has like the shroud, kind of like how the tuna has, but it's cut off from the sides here. So it only goes from the top and the bottom. And the sides are cut, so it's easier to turn the bezel. And the bezel action on this feels really solid. I mean, it's just so smooth. It feels so good. It's really tight. It's really tight. It doesn't feel like it's loose or has any play in it. Once it's in there, it sticks. It's really a step up from the SKX's bezel. And if you look closely, you can see that knurled screw-in crown, and it just looks so nice. And the feeling of it, you just get better grip. You can just tell that the attention to detail was just a little higher on this watch as opposed to the SKX. And the PVD coated steel, I never had a black PVD coated watch. This took a little time getting used to. When I first felt it, I thought it was almost like plastic because it doesn't quite feel like regular steel would. And I think that's just the coated treatment that they put on top. But it's still the same weight and everything, and it still feels very solid. So it's just a little different, that's all. And that dial. I mean, this is probably the most famous color Monster. Just one of the orange variants, right? That's how the nickname the Orange Monster started off. And you can see those shark tooth fangs, as some people call it, really gives the dial an aggressive tone. I think that's really cool. And on this specific one, there's like a gradient to the orange dial. It's not just one shade all around. It goes from really bright in the center to kind of fade out as you get around to the outer edges. And here's the hang tag. This is the old Seiko hang tag. So yes, this is old new stock, SRP311, and MSRP on this was $595. Clasp is just your typical standard Seiko clasp, so, you know, gets the job done. And I love how the back of the case, you still have that wave off Kanagawa, just like every other Seiko diver has. And I think that's really cool how they all relate back. Like, no matter how different they look on the outside, as soon as you flip them to the back, you see that same case that kind of reminds you that you're still at home. That's the fun part of collecting these. So there's so many different models, but they all kind of tie back to the same premise. All right, guys, here it is on wrist. It fits very similar to the SKX. It actually almost feels like the exact same watch. Maybe it's the design of the bezel that makes it look a little more chunky and aggressive. It fits really nice, and it doesn't feel big at all. And you can see the lugs taper around my wrist, so very comfortable watch. Really cool. I always wanted to have a Monster in my collection. I refuse to have any other color than an orange one. It just looks the best to me. And I think that this one was like a home run because the Halloween theme is just so cool. And you don't see watches in this color every day. So to me, it just looked extremely unique, and it was still a monster. And the fact that I could still get one was really cool. So overall, yeah, I think this watch is pretty awesome. And you know, Seiko divers, you can't go wrong with them. So many great models and so many different tiers. Really cool stuff. So what do you guys think of this watch? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time.